Madame, Monsieur, bonsoir. Le Maroc accélère sa transition énergétique avec une ambition désormais clairement structurée. C'était mardi au Parlement. La ministre de la Transition énergétique annonce la sélection de 6 clusters chargés de porter 7 projets initiaux d'hydrogène vert dans les provinces du Sud, représentant pas moins de 20 gigawatts de capacité renouvelable, intégrant ainsi la production de dérivés comme l'ammoniac. Une dynamique portée par la vision stratégique de Sa Majesté le roi Mohamed VI visant à renforcer la souveraineté énergétique du royaume et la compétitivité industrielle marocaine. Parmi ces clusters figure le consortium Ornx, qui réunit des acteurs américains, européens et industriels de premier plan. Pour en parler, notre invité réunit une expérience rare à la croisée de la diplomatie, de la stratégie et de la finance. Homme d'affaires américain et ancien ambassadeur des États-Unis au Maroc avec plus de 30 ans d'expérience dans la finance, dans la banque d'investissement ou encore le conseil stratégique. Bref, son parcours lui confère un regard privilégié sur l'articulation entre diplomatie économique, investissement international et grands projets structurants dans le domaine de l'énergie. Bonjour, Monsieur Dwight Bush, merci d'être avec nous.
Bonjour, Khadija.
So before we look ahead to green hydrogen and the future, let's take a step back, Mr. Bush, and look at the broader relationship between Morocco and the United States of America, as Morocco and the US mark 250 years of friendship, if I might say, and relations. Is energy the next strategic pillar in this relationship?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Khadija.
Always a pleasure.
You know, this relationship is indeed a very long-standing. As most people know, Morocco was the first country to recognize the United States of America. And on last Friday, I had the privilege of attending a celebration that was hosted by the Moroccan Embassy in Washington, D.C., to talk about the long-term strategic relationship that we have, how many different pillars there are in the relationship, whether it's our partnerships around commerce or energy, the development of civil society, commercial. It's a very broad and very strong relationship that I'm very pleased to have been able to work with for quite a while.
For quite a while you were a diplomat here in Morocco, an ambassador serving here in Morocco and after. But there's a question about the relationship between Morocco and the U.S. since 2020, since the U.S. recognition of Morocco's sovereignty over the Sahara. Mm-hmm. Have you seen a tangible shift in the business climate and the willingness of investors to, or their appetite in the southern provinces of Morocco?
Yeah, well, first of all, I am so pleased to have had the President of the United States to make the announcement and recognize the sovereignty of Morocco over the Sahara. It's something that I was very much an advocate of when I was here as ambassador, and it's something that I think to be very important in our relationship. I think what it's done is to serve as a catalyst for an increased interest in commercial development in Morocco broadly, and also specifically in the Sahara. The project that I'm working on with Ornx is a huge commitment. The first stage of this project will be over $1.5 billion US, which is really significant to support green hydrogen. It's my view that given the strategic relationship, given that we are working so closely on the issue with the Sahara, that there are other commercial interests that are lined up to think about doing business in Morocco that may not have been done, frankly, if we hadn't made the commitment to the region as well as our broader strategic commitment to Morocco.
His Majesty the King said the vision for green hydrogen on his throne speech in July 2023. Can Morocco now deliver green hydrogen at scale, Mr. Dwight Bush?
Well, let's step back a little bit further. And my time coming here in 2014, when His Majesty had a vision for Morocco being the emerging economy that was most committed to renewable energy, the development of solar business, of wind business, the commitment that led to Morocco being the host of COP22, all speaks to, I think, a very well-developed strategy and orientation towards renewable energy. And His Majesty needs to be applauded as a country of this size, making those types of commitments? The answer to your question specifically is yes. Morocco is very well positioned to be a major producer and exporter of green hydrogen. The South, the Sahara, presents opportunity to use both wind and solar to create the power that's used to make the chemical reaction, if you will, that results in green hydrogen. It's also well positioned to support the key markets, the primary markets for green hydrogen in Europe. We expect to be producing and exporting to Europe very shortly.
Very shortly.
Yes, on a time frame of things like green hydrogen, which are complicated.
Exactly. Tell us more about Ornx, how everything started.
Oh, Ornx. So the genesis of this relationship is when I served as ambassador, I worked with a gentleman named Peter Gish, who was a visionary in renewables energy, who was working on a very specific project in Morocco. And as ambassador, I thought one of my priorities was to help American investors to do business in Morocco. And he came and asked for my support for their initiative.
Why would you advocate for doing business in Morocco, Dwight Bush?
Well, I'm actually very biased towards Morocco. I will say Morocco is a country that is on the forward edge for things like renewables, for having an infrastructure, for having legal systems that promote development. And so when it was time to talk about his project, I knew Peter and what he had accomplished in the United States. I knew he would be successful. And I wanted to be able to work on projects in Morocco that others could look at and see the potential for doing business in this country. And I think by any measure, his first business was a success. And so when he approached me to work on this, I was glad to step up and to take advantage of what I knew here to try to move his project forward.
So you mentioned regulatory and legal framework in Morocco. From a project finance perspective, how competitive and bankable is Morocco's legal framework today for large-scale and long-term projects? So
this is what's really important. To do a project of this scale, you need some really important primary characteristics. First of all, you have to have rule of law. If you're working on a transaction where it takes 5 years to build out your capacity, and then you're going to support that business for 25 or 30 years, the most important thing is to have rule of law. I am very comfortable with the rule of law in Morocco, how it supports commercial investment, and is a cornerstone of why it's great to do business here. The second is the logistics. How do you locate a facility of this size and this scope to be able to supply the markets that you choose to serve? In this instance, Morocco is a perfect place for producing green hydrogen and exporting it to a market, Europe, which has a requirement that renewables become a significant portion of all energy consumption in the whole continent. So from my perspective, it's hard to find many markets, many countries where it's more beneficial to have this type of investment.
Heavy investments in terms of finance, 1.5 billion US dollars.
Yes.
What is how would you finance that?
Yeah, and again, let's just think about that. 1.5 billion US dollars is the first phase of this investment. We're very comfortable that, again, because we can construct a project here that is safe and secure, where there's very limited political risk and economic risk, we will be able to raise capital from both government-related entities and the private market to make sure that this project is a success.
So we go from a state vision to the private sector execution, and how would you describe the dynamics between those two pillars of a huge project as green hydrogen?
So in this instance, you need public sector support from both Morocco and from the United States of America.
Okay.
Therefore, our strategic relationship helps us to get comfortable making this investment here. For the private sector, What's most important to them is that they can finance projects that will be successful. And we're highly confident that we can build this facility here very economically and be a competitive source of green hydrogen for the markets that we choose to serve. That sort of construct with both public sector support and private sector support will lead to a successful transaction.
Successful transaction, what metrics will ultimately define the success for this project?
Right. The first part is to build a facility that uses state-of-the-art technology, which results in the lowest cost possible of developing green hydrogen. Having done that, then we will be able to target markets that will look to this low-cost product for success. So as the European, let's say the shipping companies, for example, who have a requirement to move towards more renewables, they will be looking for a high-quality product at a reasonable cost. We will be looking towards our ability to provide that product at a low cost and be successful. We are working with potential off-take partners now. We are highly confident, based on what we're hearing from the market, that this will be a success.
And the off-take partners are mainly in Europe?
First stage, yes, because they have a requirement to increase the amount of renewable energy sources that they use.
So what makes this partnership different? Is it about energy or influence?
Well, this project is actually first and foremost about the partnership. So the consortium in Ornx includes American investors, Spanish investors, and some third-party investors. And over time, you will see that we will bring investors in who represent the industry more broadly. So the first part is the collaboration among the partners.
Yes.
The second part of it is really making sure that you can be efficient and provide the product in a competitive way. And the third part is working with a team of people who really know how to do both the technical, the operations, and the marketing support to make it a success.
So it's interesting because this week was held the ministerial meeting on critical minerals in Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Department of State, at the headquarters of the U.S. Department of State, and State Secretary Marco Rubio explained that, I quote, Morocco has a key role to play both because of the deposits it possesses and because of the kingdom's willingness to invest in processing, as well as its cooperative approach in agreeing to take part in this global initiative, end of quote. I comment Dwight Bush about this role of Morocco in critical minerals world today, as important as it is for technologies and also for renewables.
Sure. Well, I'm not familiar with that specific meeting that was held, but frankly, I'm not surprised because rare earths and other minerals are critical for the success of some of the most important developing industries in the world, whether it's data centers, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's these iPhones that we have in our pocket, they all require these different types of minerals. So Morocco, to the extent that it has them, is a great potential strategic partner because if they are indeed expansive as they say, we know that we have a willing partner. We know that we have in Morocco a government and a palace that understands the capacity of this country and understands the importance of developing commercial mechanisms for success, whether it's the Ornx transaction that I'm working on right now or working on these mineral projects. What I see and what I'm comfortable with is that the partnership between the United States and Morocco will lead to U.S. companies trying to understand the commercial viability of those products and working with the Moroccan government to make sure that they can be developed.
Mr. Bush, as the golfer who knows very well Morocco, is Morocco playing the long game on green energy just like on the green?
Well, I think that the answer to that question is yes. I very much enjoy golf, as you know, and I look forward to playing here whenever I can. I look at the investment that the country has made in golf courses around, and the interest, by the way, that more Americans are having in coming here to play golf. So the initial investments in golf go back a long ways. Morocco was the second country on the continent of Africa to have a golf course. Hassan II invested greatly in the development of beautiful course facilities. So that first golf course was over 100 years ago. The first developments, the first investments in green hydro are being made right now. So I would expect that if I'm alive 100 years from now, inshallah, I could come here, I would still see golf courses, and I would see this burgeoning green hydrogen industry as well.
So 250 anniversary of US-Morocco relationship, and for the next 250 years, in one word, how this relationship would be from your perspective, Dwight Bush?
I think I have to start with one of my favorite Arabic terms, inshallah, that we know that 250 years from now, we can look back at the investments that are being made today and be proud of those investments and see them creating jobs and opportunities in the country from not just the north, but through the Sahara. I think that the potential of this relationship is burgeoning, and that it's going to be a huge success.
Thank you so much, Dwight Bush, for this exclusive interview for Medi1TV. It's always such a pleasure to host you here. Thank you.
Shukran.
Barakallahu fik. Shukran lik.
Thank you.
Thank you. Voilà, donc c'était cette entrevue spéciale, exclusive, en compagnie de Monsieur Dwight Bush, qui fait partie du board de l'un des consortiums qui a reçu donc l'aval du gouvernement marocain pour investir dans l'hydrogène vert dans les provinces du Sud. Merci de nous avoir suivis. Très bonne suite des programmes.